You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest is Jon Sabes. He's a Chief Executive Officer and author of Healthy, Wealthy Longevity, The Good Things in Life for as Long as Possible. That sounds pretty good to me. He works in the financial services industry, and he focuses on how longevity impacts every aspect of financial products and services consumers purchase. I guess what comes to mind is life insurance immediately, but a lot of other products I'm sure too. So welcome, Jon. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're interested in longevity and also finances. How did that come together for you? Like, what was your path like when you decided to merge the two?
Yeah, I'm a financial services guy first, lawyer, Wall Street experience, and I ended up, I think you kind of touched on it, in the life insurance industry, but not in the traditional sense. I ended up in what's called the life settlement industry, which is, I like to call it the lost mailroom of the life insurance companies. And it's where all these policies that are no longer needed, wanted, or could be afforded kind of get thrown to the ground. And it's an industry, it's a secondary market that sprung up to buy life insurance policies, pay someone for the right to continue paying the premium to ultimately receive the death benefit. So I was a financier in that industry. And of course, the central question, right, of how much you should pay someone for the right to receive their $1 million benefit and the right to continue paying the $30,000 a year is how many years are you going to have to pay for that? So it's longevity, right? And so it was really, that is the central question of that industry. It's also the central question, it turns out, of the primary life insurance industry, right? How long are people going to live? And so it was because of that and the need and want to be more accurate and predicting how long people live that led me down the rabbit hole of molecular science and predicting longevity, because I felt like the industry was stuck in 1965.
Right. So, I don't think most people think about longevity at all. I guess an insurance salesman sells them the policy that says, have a great day, but they talk to them nothing about anything else. Do you broach this subject with people that you help underwrite policies for, or how does it integrate with what you do?
So I've had a multifaceted career. Today, I'm focused on, I'll call bringing the conversation of healthy aging and healthy longevity into the context of financial products and services. So that's my business today. It's called Longevity Financial Partners. And, it's frank longevity, our own personal longevity, how long we're on the planet, right? It's our most valuable asset. It's the most invaluable thing we have, because when it's gone, it's really gone. And not surprising, we take a lot of things for granted. But at least speaking to this aspect of healthy aging and preserving life and happiness for as long as possible should be and is the central focus of financial planning and life, our journey itself. And so, speaking to those things in the context of financial products and services was what we're all about today. I work directly with the folks at Blue Zones, which I love their work in this regard. But when it comes down to it, every financial product and every financial strategy you'll engage in is really predicated on your own personal longevity or your view of it. You do things at 30 that are completely different than you'll do at 80. And so this longevity, our own personal longevity, is the central question in financial planning.
Okay, so again, most people they'll ask the basics to fill out the application, so they can get you the insurance. But, my insurance agent never asked another word about it. Maybe an estate planner would, but like, what can you do? What can't you do? When does it cross the line into like, hey, why are you asking these questions? Just sell me the insurance.
Well, again, I'm talking about financial planning, broadly speaking. not just life insurance. Life insurance is one aspect, right, of financial planning, responsible financial planning, right? When do we buy life insurance? When we get married, when we have a child, when we buy a house, when we're responsible for others, right? That's where life insurance comes into play. But that's just one, should I invest in stocks? Should I invest in bonds? How much? For how long? Should I buy an annuity? What is it? I mean, so financial planning holistically is what we're speaking about, more broadly speaking. And all of that, right, is designed to provide us with some level of prosperity. Much of it, we get to decide, and how much prosperity we want, but how much of it do we need? How much of it do we want, so that we can have the good things in life, and whatever those good things are. I err on the side of, virtuous activities are the good things in life, and you want to have those for as long as possible. If you're having good health and you have a level of financial prosperity and you have, a virtuous life with people around you that love you and you care for, I mean, who doesn't want to continue that for as long as possible? And that was brought home to me, right? I'd been working in and around these molecular biomarkers of longevity, life insurance, actuarial finance, and my mother got sick a year and a half ago. She was 83 years old. She's like, I'm good. I'm not going to do chemo. I want to maintain my dignity and my life right now for the balance of whatever it is I have. And it was just like, whoa. So that brought it home, right? Longevity is so personal. And when she's gone, when someone's gone, they are really gone. So she's like, my life's been a dream. I've had prosperity. I have this wonderful family. No one gets out of here alive, guys, and we're like, yeah, but not yet. And, but that's the journey we're all on.
It's weird. Yeah, my father passed away this year, and
I'm sorry.
Here it is. It's strange. I appreciate it, but it's you just never know. You literally never know. And it's I just turned 50, and I was like, oh man. And then stupid AARP sent me a freaking letter like everyone prophesized they would.
So they
they find you, and they do.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I'm 58, biologically speaking, of course. But for us in our 50s, that's where we're at. We're our parents, if they're still around, they're really starting to get old, and mortality becomes a very real thing. And it's we as humans cannot really wrap our head around our own mortality or the mortality of those we love. I think they call it the mortality paradox. We just really can't get our head around it, because it's as you just experienced with your father's passing. It is so final. It is so complete in every way, and he is so gone. And so you're left with this. So literally, we as humans have a very difficult time in any meaningful way wrapping our head around our own mortality. That's why. By the way, that's why life insurance is so hard to sell. That's why people don't buy life insurance. It's like, so the industry is just struggles so badly. And the only time they get you to buy a life insurance policy is, well, I had a kid, I wanted to go to college. I got this house with the mortgage. If something happened to me, I want to get paid off so my kid can stay in the house. I mean, like, that's the only time people buy life insurance, because they just physically can't get their mind wrapped around the concept that they will not be here at some point.
Yeah, I had thyroid cancer about 8 years ago, so that was like a big wake up call. Because I think a lot of people think, I'll just peacefully pass away in my 80s or something. And then when something like that happens, you're like, oh shit, I could die tomorrow. I could die next month. I could die in 6 months, and it really changes your outlook. It's weird.
Yeah, I read about
a good way.
Yeah, well, I read about your experience, and it's amazing what you've done and how it led to this podcast. So it's all super cool, I think. But you're touching on something again relative to financial planning for old age, right? Which is, I know I've got a 99.9% chance of being here tomorrow. Okay, not 100, but a pretty good one. But I also have a 99.9% chance of not celebrating my 122nd birthday, which is, by the way, the oldest living human on Earth recorded that people have been documented to know of. So,
that may have actually been a scam. I had heard. Not that it would be far off, but supposedly the lady's daughter, Jean-Marie Calumet, claimed to be her, so that she could get that 122-and-a-half-year-old designation. But if not her, then like the oldest was like 118 or 117 or something, but still.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I've read that. I think that one happens to be real. Although that's a common issue, right, around all this longevity science. I mean, blue zones have been criticized about, the thing they say that's only common in blue zones is the fact that people fake how long they're alive so they can continue to receive these pensions for a very long time. That was a very interesting critique of some of the blue zone research. I think they've done a good job of refuting that. But the thing I would touch on even with blue zones is what is true is that they do live long. They have historically lived long lives there, but they have also been the happiest people on earth. And that to me is the really key piece of this is we want to live a long, vibrant, healthy life, but we want to be happy. And so what are those things that, that lead to experiencing more happiness through this journey called life? So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, well, a couple of things. One is that I don't know if this goes for all people. I hope it does, but I've gotten more patient as I've gotten older. So I'm willing to invest in things. And I guess because I know, I don't know, how could I not have known, but I know that at some point I'm going to pass away and I have children and all that. It's just, I don't know, again, just being older, I'm more patient. So I'm able to invest in things. And the lesson I learned is you just got to hold for a long time. You get whatever assets you can, big or small, and hold. And I look back at my own financial journey. If I had held on to things that I had gotten before, I would be doing really well, but I was foolish. And now I'm trying to be, again, more patient and, hold on to things hopefully for 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm hoping to hear from, or at least my children to say at some point, thank God Dad did this 30 years ago because we're okay now. But it took me this far to get to think like that.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned this book I wrote. It's called Healthy, Wealthy Longevity. It's really I'll call a personal development self-help book more than anything. And it's based, I've been a study of, positive psychology for many years. I credit it for, the things I've achieved in my life. And I'm proud of a lot of the things that I've done. So a few things, not so much. But, what it comes down to is exactly what you're saying is, how can you start upstream, with confidence in the downstream result, right? And so you're saying starting early, which is right. You want to start early so that you have the benefit of compounding. And you can compound every aspect of your life in a very positive way, or if you have enough self-awareness of these things and can make better decisions earlier in time and stick with it, the chances, right, the probabilities, it all comes back to chance and probability. The chances improve of better things happening to you over time. I like to say, you can then count it up to bad luck versus a permanent condition, right? Which is not a permanent condition of one you don't want, right? Which is, being alone, being impoverished, being in poor health. Those are just not great outcomes for a life well lived.
So what do you emphasize in your book? Is it teach people what they need to do to set themselves up for a healthy and wealthy life, or what's the premise of the book?
I mean, it's a blueprint, and it takes from a number of sources that I've been looking at and researching and my own experience. Yeah, and it sets up a premise or a scaffolding for, look, you have to first have the intention, right? The positive, real intention to want to have these things in your life. And then you got to take action towards them. And if you focus that action and intention towards better health, right? Good health, and towards prosperity, which for lack of a better word, let's just call it your career, right? If you really focus on those two things with a level of intention and self-awareness, and you practice them and you educate yourself as you go along, you radically increase the odds of getting what you want over time and over your life. And, it's chock full of references of gene expression related to health and epigenetics and biological aging, where we learn, right, that our lifestyles so directly influence gene expression in a way that we had no idea, which, by the way, which is what I was commercializing. I was commercializing saliva-based epigenetic biomarkers for life insurance underwriting. I said, you guys are stuck in 1965. There's a whole new field of science. There's got to be something better. And I came across Dr. Steve Horvath out at UCLA, who had discovered this thing called the biological clock. And I went and visited him. I said, so let me understand this thing called the epigenetic biological aging clock thing. And I said, have you heard of a life insurance industry? He goes, no, what's that? I'm like, oh, well, it's a little industry who has a lot of money betting on how long you'll live. So that's the book. The book is that. The book is about, how can you go all in? You should go all in on your health as early as possible. You should go all in on your own personal prosperity journey. And as an entrepreneur, I've got a lot of advice of what I've experienced are what you're going to need and how to set yourself up for success. And you get to decide how much you want and need out of life. Some people want to have everything and this and that, and 4 cars and 7 homes. And other people are like, no, I just want to have $1 million in my 401k, and I don't ever want to have to worry about money. And I want to paint and read on the weekends and do all these other things. So it's up to you.
Well, how does someone go all in on their health and their wealth building?
They go all in on their health by first, I'd say, having a healthy mindset. And that's how you begin that positive health journey. You have to have a healthy mindset, and you have to want to be in good health. So that's the first step. Then you have to develop habits, and you got to set yourself up for success for health. And the easiest way that we can all do that is we can set our environment up in a way that makes the default choice, the default action, the healthier action. Because a lot of us are going to fail in our self-discipline and you get back to the gym. But if you put your walking shoes out and you walk your dog once a day, if you clean out your pantry and get rid of all the salty, sugary foods and the ice cream in the freezer, and you put some bananas and some Greek yogurt, you're setting yourself up to have a healthy mindset and then make that default behavior the healthier behavior. So that's the way you can go all in. And I would suggest that no matter what career you're in, whether you're a lawyer, a financial professional, if you're into good health, other people will recognize that and they'll be attracted to it because people want to be in good health. They want vibrancy. They want high energy people. And so that's even how that relates into prosperity and your career and succeeding. What I say is if you go in all in on your health, it translates into your professional journey in a way you cannot even believe. And I can see you've even done it. You went all in on health and look at your career. It fucking blew up. You got this podcast. It's incredible. Right. And that wasn't the journey you were on, but you went all in on health. And now look what's happening.
Well, I could tell you a couple of experiences that really shaped me is I went to Dave Asprey's Bulletproof Conference, I think in 2018 or something like that, 2019. And at the conference, there was probably 600 people. And I could tell you, I was literally the only person that was overweight there. And I remember looking at all the people and I was like, wow, these people look really great. And I was in line for this one booth and the lady in front of me had long gray hair. And I started talking to her and she had super clear eyes that you only see in very young people. And I said, I hope I don't mean to pry, but how old are you? She's 74. I said, oh my God, how do you look amazing? And she's like, well, I worked a very long time on it and I try to keep myself in good shape. And so the conference was a real wake up call. It was amazing to see what people can do that try. And then I got home to Austin and I went to a regular grocery store and it was a different species of people. People looked awful in the grocery store. They just, inflamed and just sickly and they dark patches on their neck and, that acanthosis nigricans, when you have too much sugar, your skin kind of turns dark. There's all these problems, but I saw literally how you can almost have 2 species of people depending on your health.
Good news is, and I hope this is the case with your journey, is, the human, and this obviously from all the work you've done, the human machine is remarkable. So it's really almost, I hate to say it, almost never too late. That being said, the earlier you start and the more consistent you are, you meet the 78-year woman, and you're looking at her crystal clear blue eyes, and it's just radiating out of her, the energy and the vibrancy. But this human body, this beautiful human machine is so resilient. It wants to be healthy. It really does. But you gotta help it, and you gotta, and the best way that I've found out, and this is sort of the Dan Buettner Blue Zone way, which is, set that environment up to do things, just make that healthier decision a little easier for you, and develop that muscle. And I still think it's a lot of self-discipline and intention towards it. So I like that part of it too, the self-mastery. How do you do it? How do you get to the gym when you're tired? I heard a sentence, something the other day I loved. I said, if you're tired, do it tired. You know what I mean? It's I never even thought of that before. I'm because sometimes I'm I'm tired. I don't want to work out. I'm no, just work out being tired. It's okay. I'm oh, okay. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah, I did that with, for a while in the winter. well, 2 years now. I did cold, hot and cold plunges, and it steadily got colder and colder and harder to do it, but I felt really good doing it. But I realized you don't have to like it. I never liked going in the cold. It was really hard to tolerate sometimes, but I felt great when I was done. And when I let go of like having to like it, it wasn't so bad. It was like a little bit of discomfort for a short period of time can really get you far. Like I started having microgreens at night. I would just have like a big handful of them. To me, they taste disgusting. I would just have them drink water like as a chaser, but it didn't kill me. It was 2 seconds. It was done, and it helped my health tremendously. So I guess I would say, without even being asked, is if you can just tolerate a little bit of discomfort, you can get a lot further along than you otherwise would by not doing any discomfort.
I think the common theme there is all growth comes from some level of discomfort, right? Growth comes from discomfort. And I'm a big hot cold guy as well. I founded the Sauna Research Institute with a few other guys, and but it goes back to this idea of it, when you experience a little discomfort and you maintain a little positive intention and attitude about it, when you come out of it on the other side, there's where the growth comes. And I think that's true in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, definitely. So how are you boiling this into to finance? Is it coming through like marketing materials or conversations with people, or like how do you see that your conversations are different, and how are people responding?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. We're just starting to work with RIAs, registered investment advisors throughout the country, who help people with financial planning. This country is this year is peak 65, so more individuals will turn 65 years of age in the U.S. than in any year before and any year after. And so we have this massive population bubble, coming into basically the retirement years, although I argue, retirement is sort of an artificial notion. It was sort of created out of necessity and an idea, but I think folks need to stay busy their whole lives. But anyways, people think about retirement, they think about life change, and it's true. As we age, we slow down, and we certainly change. So we're out talking, we work with RIAs, we talk about financial planning, we talk about healthy aging and the role of money and how to then financially plan for it. And the thing I'm most excited about later this year is we've got a kind of a number of very innovative products that we're going to bring to market that are so excitingly innovative that I think it's really going to change the way people think about planning for old age. I think I was about to touch on that, which is we've had a very big shift in the U.S. Financial retirement landscape. It used to be people could rely on, for the most part, corporate pensions to finance their old age. And over the last several decades, we've been undergoing a very subtle but massive shift where the responsibility of financing your old age is now yours. Social Security just announced that by 2034, they're going to have to reduce benefits by at least 25%. I mean, we've been hearing it, but they finally just told us how much and when. So we as individuals need to financially plan for old age. And by and large, we're living much longer lives than historically we have. And so how do we do this? And it's a very difficult calculation for individuals to make. It's a very easy calculation for a corporate pension to make, right? If you've got 1,000 people, I can tell you pretty consistently like how many people are going to be alive in the 1,000 over the next 10, 20, 30 years. I just can't tell you which one. So when you shift that burden onto the individual, he or she has to make this calculation and has to guess. And so how we as individuals deal with aging, healthy aging, it comes with this paradoxical challenge of how do you pay for it, and how do you do it in a way that you don't enter financial insecurity. And so that's where we're at and what we're working on.
I got a quick question. I'm sure the insurance industry, maybe once a year, I don't know, maybe every 5 years, do they look back and they say, here's what we forecast, here's the premiums we charged, here's how close we were to being right versus wrong? They must do that. And what is that called? That stat, that percentage of correctness of their model?
I guess actual to expected. They're constantly updating the actuarial tables, so they're consistently doing that. And so they're studying that. Although, when I was working on my last company, we were doing our SEC offering, the first sentence of it was, we're going to make longevity science fundamental to the life insurance industry. Like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you pay attention and make that sort of if you're a life insurance company, you pay death benefits out when people die. If you could keep them all paying premiums and alive forever or longer, you win. And there's so many exciting things happening in precision medicine, as you know, which your entire podcast is all about. There's so much happening right now. We're on the cusp of just some incredible breakthroughs for folks. And I think, the financial services industry is lagging significantly in adopting the importance of this relative to the lives of the clients they serve.
Does anyone know like standard figures on the actual versus projected for various insurance firms? Like, is it 95%? Is there an industry standard? Like, how much could it be improved?
That's I don't have a exact answer to that. I mean, what we do know is insurance companies know very little about late stage mortality. So they know a lot about how many 30-year-olds will pass by the time they hit 80 or 60. They know a lot about that stuff, but what they don't know a lot about is, if you make it to 70, what are the odds you get to 90 to 100, and what are the differentiators that drive this? And that's really the big challenge for people right today is, I'm 65, what are the chances I'm going to be 95? That's 30 years I'm going to have to finance. And if inflation and healthcare costs continue doing what they're doing, how much money do I need? And how the hell am I going to pay for it?
I guess one proxy is, if someone in your family lives a very long time, I bet a lot of people think this, but don't say, I would think like, yes, my great aunt lived to 98. So there's a hope for me, for instance, or, my grandmother lived to 84 or whatever it is. Or people have the opposite, everyone in the family seems to pass early. Then they're like, oh no, it's a harbinger for them that they may have trouble.
Well, I mean, that sort of, again, when I sat down with Dr. Steve Horvath at UCLA, the first question is, how old are you? That's sort of a genetic time question. And then they ask, the second question is, how do you smoke or not? Right? That's a lifestyle question, which, by the way, his response was, epigenetics, I can tell you how much, not only do you smoke, but how much do you smoke? And the third question will be, well, how old did your parents live? Right? So now we're back to genetics, and then we're back to lifestyle. So genetics are the starting point. And clearly, if your parents, lived longer, that's a great starting point. But it's if you smoke and sit on the couch and eat a gallon of ice cream every day, and you won't live a long time like your parents did.
What about if your parents had you very early versus very late? Their epigenetic load would have built up over their life, whether they're healthy or not. And I wonder how much of a different person you are being born again when they're young and have less errors in their genetics and less problems versus when they're older. Let's say your parents gave birth to you when they're 18, real young, versus like 35.
Yeah, I don't know that it really works that way. Quite honestly, but that's we'd have to ask Grok to get the right answer there, or a PhD. But I don't think it quite works that way. I think the benefit, if your parents were young when they had you had the benefit of probably being with them a long time and were probably pretty close. If they were older, yeah, it's kind of like, there's Grandpa, he's at my soccer game. It's driving your genetic or I don't think that's actually how it works.
Okay, I don't know. So what are you putting in place, or what are you helping to put in place or trying to change in the insurance industry so it can align itself with the latest in health and make better decisions for people?
Yeah, well, I certainly want to get people to, again, as we kind of talked about, which is have a healthy aging mindset. What are the things that the people who experience healthy aging are doing? What are those things doing, and how can we make those practices available to you? So I think that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is, then how can we financially plan better so that we don't put ourselves at risk of being financially insecure as we grow old and deep into old age, and I think we touched on this. What could you do today that 30 years from now you'd be happy? I mean, imagine your 90-year-old self, where there's a pretty good chance you could meet that person. If you met your 90-year-old self and if they could tell you, what was the one thing you could do today so that when you meet me, I'll give you a big hug and say, thanks, man, for doing that way back when, because I'm here at 90. I'm reliant on you, my younger self, to have done some things correctly so that I can be here today and I can look around my life and I can say my life's been a dream. And it's all because of you. my younger.
Instead of your 90-year-old self slapping you and say, what the hell?
Look at where I'm a ward of the state. Look at these people I share a room with. This is horrible. How did I get to this place? I'm by myself. This is not what I signed up for.
That's funny. So yeah, what are you trying to, what projects do you have, or what are you trying to influence through your book, or how else are you working in the industry to help?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I've got some products, some new financial products in the work that I plan to bring to market later this year. So after those are kind of publicly disclosed, I'm happy to get out here and talk about them. The book itself was really a thought leadership piece. I really wanted to talk about just, health and wealth and the connection between the two. That's the other thing. You see a lot of happiness books out there. You see a lot of people talking about this, that, about happy. And I'm like, yeah, but what about money? What role does money have in both being happy and healthy? It turns out a lot. There was a jaw-dropping study done about 10 years ago where I forget I think it was not Rand, but someone else did a study. The top 5% earners get a decade more. I think it was about 13 years more of life than the lowest 5% earners. So money matters relative to your health and your longevity. It also matters relative to your happiness. And I don't think people connect those enough. It's sort of taboo, but it's also to say too, just like your genetics are your starting point, whatever you came into the life, whether you have money or not, your parents had money or not, you can have as much I believe in the United States of America, you have the opportunity to have as much prosperity as you want. You're going to have to work like hell to get it, but it's available. And the only thing I've been able to discern as a starting point for prosperity for those who have money and those who don't is a degree of financial literacy, and then the commitment to the hard work it's going to take, and the responsible financial planning practice that comes with a degree of financial literacy.
What does it look like, in the near future? You have, a life insurance company that is fully on board with what you're saying. They're using all the latest diagnostics, profiling people epigenetically, et cetera. What do their policies look like? Like, what kind of behavior are they going to engineer into the policies so that they can profit more, plus the people can benefit? What does your interaction with a company like that look like?
Oh, that would be cool. Well, here's the first thing, and this is what I was trying to do. You're right now today, after you put your application in, your first interaction with the insurance company is they send a phlebotomist over to your house or to your office that pulls out a syringe and gives you and takes 3 vials of blood and then gives you a cup and says, go pee in this. That's the first interaction.
Yep.
Now, does that make any sense to you whatsoever in terms of like a way to begin building a relationship? And where I was at and where the industry could and should be is spit in a tube. We'll look at your epigenetic profile of, do you use tobacco or not, and how much? Have you been living a healthy? I mean, like, how about that as a starting point, let alone how then I might build products and personalize those products to you and reward you for living healthier and better. So the industry is it's stuck in 1965. It has no hope of coming out of it, personally, my opinion.
How hard would it be for you to start your own, Sabes life insurance company? Because you like a $5 million bond or more?
My prior company, I bought a life insurance company. I was building a full stack digital life insurance company. And we were going to use saliva-based underwrite. And you know what you know how difficult it was for the state insurance regulatory, to wrap their head around someone like me coming into their industry. It was just not going to happen. There's a saying in the life insurance industry, which I believe is true. It was designed by a genius to be run by an idiot. And I kind of believe that's true. So since we're on Finding Geniuses podcast, here's to the geniuses. They're all dead now, by the way, because all these life insurance companies were started many, many decades ago. They're all gone, but those are genius guys. Those are big companies.
You got pretty far and you got stonewalled, or you just couldn't do it, or what happened?
Well, I got caught in a cycle of the capital markets cycle. And at the time, I had this company, and then Deutsche Bank and RBC, Dane Rod, they're all going to take me public, and it was all going to happen. And they valued the company at $350 million, and they're going to give me a couple $100 million. And I mean, I was on my way. And it took so long in the period in which I was trying to get our deal done. It went from, startups are amazing to startups are radioactive toxic waste. And there was a very long period of time, from 2021, maybe 2020, 21 for the next 3 years until recently, really. Until recently did the capital markets start to open up again. So I got caught in that. And, that's why I'm doing Longevity Financial Partners. I'm not done. Who's to say? Maybe one day, I'll have the Jon Sabes Longevity Life Insurance Company. I'm open-minded.
So your current initiative now, what are you looking to do specifically?
Specifically, we're working with financial advisors, registered investment advisors who are helping their clients live their, best lives for as long as possible. And so we work with them. We have content around healthy aging. We work directly with the folks at Blue Zones. We bring Blue Zone content directly. We create Blue Zone environments for registered investment advisors and their clients. And then beyond that, like I said, I'm developing some proprietary products. They're not insurance products; they're investment products that I believe will be very innovative to help people finance their lives as they grow old and deep into old age, so that 90, 95-year-old or God forbid 100-year-old goes, "Thank you, man. That was awesome."
How can people find out more about your efforts? Like, should they start with your book and then go to your socials to follow you, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. It's Jon, Jon Sabes, Sabes. I got my own website, jonsabes.com, longevityfp.com, all the social media. I'm there. And get the book off Amazon, Healthy, Wealthy Longevity. I have these personal prompt journals that I've been designing over the last 10 years that I use. I credit as sort of my tool, my own self-coach. You can buy those off my website if you're into personal development and you kind of like the way I'm approaching it. Yeah, please engage with me. I love it.
Well, very good, Jon. Thanks for coming on the podcast and for fielding my questions from every direction. Appreciate it.
Richard, thanks for doing the great work. You got a lot of really good podcasts, and keep it up.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.